Good day, everybody. Welcome back to the Dirty Pat Walsh channel with me, your host, Dirty Pat Walsh, here on YouTube. We're gonna have a dip of some of this grizzly snuff. It's pretty good. It's pretty good indeed. Just rip the lid right off. Let's see if we can get one in one here. That'd be awesome. Cheers, everybody. Okay. 1 and 2. All right. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a story today of it's kind of a story in two parts. The first part is, and I think this is all stuff I've made videos on before, but a long time ago. But, okay, so I wanted to do a solo tour, okay, using my connections that I had through the Silver Hearts and what else would have you. I wanted to book myself a small solo tour because, you know, I've been doing solo music a long time before the Silver Hearts, you know, and the Silver Hearts were at their heyday. We were quite a popular band in Ontario, at least at the time. So I figured, okay, well, I can easily book a tour from Peterborough to Hamilton and have it pay for itself. I figured I could, you know. It's not that hard to do, but turns out to be a bit harder than I thought. Excuse me while I swap out my Coke can for my jug here. All right, so the tour, I booked it for, of course, Peterborough. I booked a show in Toronto. I booked a show in Hamilton, and I would have had a show in St. Catharines as well, but it was the date they had was 2 weeks after, so I couldn't quite go to that one. So I figured, okay, a 3-date tour. I'm going by myself. You know, people know me from the Silver Hearts right now, so it'll work out fine. And so my thought was, okay, the Peterborough gig was supposed to get me a bus ticket to Toronto, and the Toronto show was at a place called the Free Times Cafe, and it's kind of a legendary like folk bar in Toronto. There it was anyway. I thought it still was when I went there, but and then the third gig was at a punk rock festival for this bartender named Sonny, who was a big fan of the Silver Hearts. And I was booked onto this 20-band punk rock festival as the only solo act, the only non-punk rock act, and the only out-of-town act. So, because Sonny really liked the Silver Hearts, you know. And so anyhow, the gig in Peterborough, total bust. The only people who came were the bartender, and I was married at the time. I doubt my wife would have come. It was basically an empty room show. So I didn't make any money. I made $5 at that show. So, and that was only due to the bartender's generosity. But So anyhow, I didn't have enough money to go to Toronto, but I did have enough pocket money to go to Toronto. So like I had backups for most of the way. Um, so I go to Toronto the next day and go to the Free Times Cafe when it's time to go there. And they tell me, okay, your performance room is in the back. Like the bar out front was kind of popping, right? It was a Friday night, I think, so it was happening, in the front bar. In the back room, it was just a big cold, empty room with a theater stage. So they said where all the microphones, PA stuff was. So I set it all up, and just waited for people to come in because they told me before I came, they're like, mail us down. Like they were pretty enthusiastic about me coming. Um, they told me to mail down 50 copies of a poster saying that I'm in the Silver Hearts, and they put them up. And the first thing I noticed when I went to go set up a PA was the stack of posters. It was basically the stack of posters I'd made. That I'm sure they took it out of the envelope and just put it in the trash because it was a perfect stack of 50 posters sitting in the trash. So, and I hadn't seen any posters that day. So, yeah, that was kind of a drag. But they ditched my posters, so nobody knew I was doing a show. And so that was another empty room show. I figured, okay, well maybe people are waiting to start hearing some noise coming from the back room. So I started playing around 9 o'clock, and not only did nobody come back, but the bartender turned up the bar music louder to drown me out. So that was kind of a drag. But the person who did come was the fellow I was staying with, my good friend Steve McNabb. And we hung out. We went out for midnight ice cream. Went back to his place. Had a good time. And then the next day, I was off to Hamilton. So luckily, I had enough money to get to Hamilton. Now the thing is, I didn't have enough money to get home. So I got to Hamilton, and I walked. As soon I realized really quick, oh fuck, it's Canada Day. Nothing's open. Like I can't go anywhere. I can't go even sit in the library. I love Hamilton. It's a really interesting city. And so it was basically just walking around a dead, empty city. There was nobody around. So I just was smoking joints and carrying around. The guitar I was playing was this very heavy tricone resonator guitar at the time. It was very heavy. So I was walking around town with that all day until the time came for load-in, which was 6:30. So I go down to the Casbah, the bar where this was all taking place. And not only, because that what happened at the Free Times made me think I better look for posters in Hamilton. I didn't see a single one. I was like, that's a bad sign. So I go to the Casbah at load-in time, and there's nobody there. This is a 20-band festival. Nobody's there. And it's like, this is really weird. Okay, so I just sat in the parking lot wondering what to do, and the bartender came out back for a smoke. She was like, "Hey, are you?" And she recognized me. She said, "Hey, you're from the Silver Hearts?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "Are you guys playing tonight? Are you guys, why are you here?" Sitting in the parking lot. And I said, "Well, there was supposed to be a send-off for Sonny, the bartender. And there was like a 20-band festival I was supposed to play at." And she just went, "Oh, fuck." And I was like, "Oh, fuck." And she said, "Well, Brody, the booker, who's a really cool guy, he moved the venue and the time to 2 weeks down the road to a different bar." And so I was like, well, shit. What do I do? I'm thinking, what do I do now? I can't get home. So the bartender called up Brody and said, hey, Pat Walsh is here, and thought he had a gig tonight. And you could almost hear Brody doing the face palm over the phone, and that's when I found out. Like, he's like, oh fuck, I told everybody, but the only person I didn't tell was Pat, because he's an out of town act, and I brain farted on it, I guess, or something like that. So he said give him $40 and buy him whatever he wants to drink, and tell him I'm really sorry, and I'll rebook for him really soon. So I was like, okay, and so $40 was enough to get me home, and I had a couple of cans of Coke when I was there, and so I was really thirsty, man. And so then I went off and went to the bus terminal in Hamilton and caught a bus home. The tour that nobody came to. Now, I had a gas. I had a really good time on this tour. I'd do it again. It was so much fun. But nobody came to any of my shows. So anyhow, Brody is good for his word, He emailed me. No, he didn't call me up. He emailed me and asked when, if like could I do a gig like this other gig. It was like a month away, and I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. That'd be great. And it was at a better. It was just a better deal, the whole thing, right? And it wasn't going to cave in. So now at that time, I had asked my friend Matthias Kalm from the Burning Hell to play drums with me, and I would play electric guitar, and he'd play drums, and we were called the Friday Nights. And it was a pretty cool band. Matthias used to set his drum kit on fire, and we put on a good show. We both wore red suit jackets, and we dressed a lot in red. And yeah, it was a cool show. So that we put on. So we get to Hamilton, and yeah, the venue's the same place, the Casbah, and but it's packed with people. It's packed, and we're like, okay, well, this is good. So the first act that went on was these two brothers. I think they were like twin brothers. They had long, flowing golden hair. They were shirtless, and they both played 12-string guitars. But most of their show, they just were like making in jokes and punching each other in the shoulder and shit like that. And their songs were really weird. I think they were doing like Beach Boy covers or something like that. I don't know. But it was weird because like they were twins, they were shirtless, and they had a lot of yucks in between them that nobody knew what they were talking about. So they were a weird act. So then we were in the middle, and we played, and we just fucking laid it on the floor, man. Matthias had his whole drum kit on fire. I was like on people's tables, fucking playing my electric guitar songs. It was really cool. People were like, holy fuck, when we were done playing. And that was pretty cool. But then the headlining act went on. And the headlining act was this cat. I can't remember his name, nor can I remember the name of the first act. But the headlining act was probably the weirdest headlining act I've ever seen in any show. He was one guy, and now between his set and my set, he came up to me and he said, "Hey man, you got a good voice. Can you sing Alice's Restaurant with me?" And I was like, God, no. I can't stand that song. I can't stand Arlo Guthrie. So I just flat out said, no, I can't. I don't know the song. I can't sing it if I don't know it. And he was like, oh, okay. And then he was, are you sure? Are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure, man. I don't know the song. So he seemed satisfied with that. But so we went up to the stage, and he sat down with his electric guitar, and basically noodled on his guitar for 20 minutes. Like it was like watching somebody practice Led Zeppelin riffs at home, because that's what he was doing. He's like, here's a little bit, a whole lot of love, and here's a little bit of something, something. It was just like a weird. It was very weird. And so then he puts his guitar away and he pulls out a snare drum with brushes. And he's like, okay. And then he starts like doing a shh, 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 shh. He's like, okay, at this point I'd like to introduce Patrick Walsh from the Friday Nights to come sing Alice's Restaurant with me. And I was just like, oh God, no. Because I told him no, right? And I just said from the stage, I was like, here's my seat. I was like, dude, I told you I didn't know the song. I can't do it. And he was like, oh, really? Oh, okay. So he's like, okay, well, I guess I'll do it solo. And he starts in his brush. You can get anything you want at Alice's Restaurant. Like everybody knows that part of the song. But it's a really long song. And that's all he knew of it. He didn't know the song himself, which was super fucked. So he did that, and then he basically just banged on his snare drum a bit. Just did a couple beats that he knows on it, I guess. I don't know. It was just like the same as the guitar thing. It was like watching somebody practice in their room on their snare drum. Now, the weird thing about it is he was the headlining act, and everybody was there to see him. He got, like, roaring, like, cheers of applause, People loved him. And I think a good part of the audience was made up of his family. But people loved him. And Matthias and I left with our cash. And we went to the Harvest Burger, which is a place you have to go if you go to Hamilton. And we were just like, that was the weirdest fucking gig ever. And and then we came home. And eventually Matthias left the Friday Nights and started his band, The Burning Hell, which are now worldwide sensations. So I'm glad to have had the opportunity to play with Matthias. So he's a good friend. But anyhow, that's my elongated, weird music story for you for the day. I'm sorry if I've repeated myself in any of this. I'm sure I have. Probably told both those stories at separate times. I'm not sure. But anyhow, that's the story for today. I hope you all be well. And I hope you're all feeling good and having an awesome day. All right. Bye now.